Welcome back. Since I have this leather hard egg form, I think it's a good opportunity to show you another attachment technique. Pulled handles are typically what we do for cups and pottery, functional work. But for something like this, you can also pull your clay. And I want to show you how to do that. So I'm just going to leave that there for now and grab the tools that I need, which will be these and my slip and a bucket of water or a bowl of water. I was inspired yesterday while cleaning off my patio by these little I have a wild cherry tree, and it was dropping all of these um, little cherries that will never become cherries on the patio. So I saw them and I thought, what beautiful form that is. What I'm never going to make it. They fall off by the tons before the real fruit sets in, the stuff that survives, and then the birds and squirrels get them. Um, but they're really beautiful, just gorgeous little forms, and so they kind of inspired me since I was already working with a shape very similar. So I'm going to turn this egg form into kind of a fruit or gourd-like piece while I have the chance. So grabbed another piece of clay out of my bag. Full disclosure here, my clay is not the exact same as yours. If I mentioned that before or not, I don't recall. Um, I am using a terracotta, low fire terracotta. This has mica in it, and the only reason I'm using it is because it is what was available to me in a low fire clay. We had this at Digipin. I bought it in 2013, so it's been around for a long time. It's very firm out of the bag. I spent a little bit of time softening this up, so I would be able to use it for this demo. So I'm just shaping this, elongating this from an egg, from a round form to an egg form, and now kind of a big thick carrot form. I'll move this water out of the way a little bit, and I don't need all of this, so I'm just going to squeeze this out a little bit more. And cut off what I think I'll need. That's I could have maybe gone a little bit more than that because I'll probably pull some of it off. Um, I'll use this quickly as well. So I'll have two options to go with, right? Got a big one and a little one. Roll that out. Got that guy and this one. Round the bottom a little bit and taper this out. When I taper this will concave a little. That's fine because it'll match the area that I'm attaching to. So this is good to just get things started. It's round, or cylindrical, I should say, and it tapers. And that's kind of the shape that I'm looking for. So it's a good start. Set this on here. Yeah, I think that will do. This I can just show you a real simple pulling technique with. So I'll set that aside. Now I do plan on doing more to this surface, but for the sake of the demonstration, I'm going to score this top. So we talked about the importance of scratching both surfaces. That. And this, I want to make sure I get into that groove. Don't want to trap any air. That's the important thing. If you're working with a concave, don't trap air. It's always best when you're attaching two pieces of clay to use clay that is similar in water content. Always use the same clay bodies. If you use different clay bodies, the chances of them cracking are greater because shrinkage may be different. I'm going to use a little bit of this awesome slip that I have now, and I don't want to use too much. And I think I'll just put it on this one side because when I squeeze it around, it's going to redistribute itself. Too much in this it will just slide around. So try to make sure I've got it kind of where I want it. And then I'll work that bottom edge of the stem into the piece itself, into the egg form or fruit. It was a mouse, then it was an egg, then a mouse, then an egg again, and now it's going to become some type of fruit or gourd. Okay, so I've got that pretty well stuck. I don't think it's going to come off, not easily anyway. Now, I've smoothed this edge in to this attachment so that it's really, part of the piece. And if you're trying to attach something wet to something dry, when you smooth that in, you're thinning the wet clay. You're getting a real thin edge of wet clay onto dry clay. This is not so dry that this is going to occur to me, but that's where cracking occurs. If you don't like that look of the piece melding in to the form, you can separate that easily, and I'll probably do that later, but you can do that very easily with a little piece of wood. Just move it up and rotate it around. And that will give you that definition, um, that it looks more of an attachment rather than, it's growing out of the piece. Either way is fine. I'm going to probably go back to this form, but from the pulling portion of this, I'll probably lose it to a degree. Now that I have it attached well, it's not coming off, I can hold it upside down and use my water. I'll step back and maybe catch more of this in the video. I'm getting my hand wet and the handle only, or stem, whichever the case may be. I now have a microphone or I have a maraca. Um, and maybe that's where you want it to end up. But all these ideas come to your head when you're working on pieces, and pay attention to that stuff. It seems that's the creative process. So I'm just rotating as I'm pulling gently. Um, Once this is wet, it allows me to pull the clay very gently and close my hand in so that I'm creating this taper. So I'm putting just a little bit of pressure on there. Now, once I feel like I've got a really good attachment and um, I'm not going to pull the piece off, I can be more aggressive with it. But I think initially the best way to learn to pull is if you just try to go through the motions without taking a lot of clay. It's the same with throwing. Go through the motions without applying a lot of pressure and then gradually increase the pressure because it's really important not to grab too much because you'll just tear things off. Um, you can, pull these things for a long, long way if you want to make them really thin. But I kind of like that taper. I don't want to get too crazy with it. It will get longer because I want to add another element to this. It's too easy for me to get above the camera here. So I want to add another element. I think I'll sit down so that I'm not holding this thing crazy high. I can see from there. If you can see from there. I'm going to use my thumb and I'm going to just apply a little bit of pressure and go in and just pull down. So easier for me to do it in front of me to get a straight line, but I'm trying to show you. So I'm just pulling it down like this. Then I'm going to rotate the piece and do the opposite side. And then between those two sides. So I'm creating 4 sides to this. Remember, if things get dry, add a little bit of moisture. So I'm just using the very tip of my thumb when I do this. So that puts some a little bit of texture into the piece. Okay. Try to rinse off my hand here and just kind of go over it, smooth it out, create that definition. A lot of times when you're working with clay, you're putting texture in, you're taking it out, just going back and forth. At this point, I'd like to dry my hand off. So I'll come over here. And now with my right hand, I'm just going to give this a little bit of a twist. So it begins to twist, you can see. And then I can hold that. And now it begins to look a little bit more gourd-like or plant-like. So once this firms up, I'll go back in and I will establish that separation. I think it's going to look really good with this. But I need to allow this to firm up before I can do that. So I'm going to do, just something like this. in the end, it will have a kind of a rather nice look to it. And I get to play with this and determine how I want to finish that off. But that comes later. It needs to firm up a bit. Okay, so another attachment and pulling handles. I have another handle here, or another cone of clay. So I'm just going to go through the pulling portion of this. You can create handles and attach them later, or create vines and attach them later. A little bit of water. Make sure your left hand that you're holding it with um, is dry. Otherwise, you won't be able to hang on to the clay. Make sure that the clay is wet and that your hand is wet. Rotate as you pull. If you're going for a round handle or cylindrical, just keep that taper going. Make sure you're squeezing and tapering in. If you get a funny bottom, you can just pull it right off. Just like that. Now I've got a nice taper on that. Do you get a chance to see? And if you want to put that texture in, remember, it's the tip of the thumb. Just like this. Going in. Going in. Tip of the thumb. Bring it down. Do the other side. And then go between those. Okay? You get that? If you want to go over it lightly, make it a little bit smoother, that's fine. And then if you want to twist it, you can just do this. Nice twist. Let that sit and firm up. More surface area exposed to the air, it'll dry quickly. See if you get to see this way. Okay. There we go.